I always believed that love meant building a life together, brick by brick, day by day. My name is James, and for 5 years I had shared a life with Sarah that felt real, grounded, and full of promise. We had a home, routines, small rituals that made ordinary days feel extraordinary, and plans for the future that we whispered about late at night. I trusted her with my heart, my vulnerabilities, and my dreams. I thought trust was sacred between us, something untouchable. But all of that belief would be tested in ways I could never have imagined. It began with a casual remark one evening as we were sitting on the balcony, the city lights twinkling beneath us like 1,000 tiny promises. Sarah looked at me, a mix of frustration and excitement in her eyes, and said, "I'm too young, James. I need to explore. There's so much of life I haven't lived yet." The words struck like a sudden chill in midsummer. I stared at her, trying to make sense of what I had just heard. Explore? Explore what? Was this about travel, personal growth, friends, or something else? The meaning, the implication hit me slowly, and it was devastating. My heart sank at the realization that the life I had built, the love I had nurtured, and the years we had spent growing together were suddenly secondary to her own desires. I tried to stay calm, reason with her gently to understand. "Sarah, we've talked about growing together. Isn't that what we promised each other?" I asked, my voice steady but tight. She shook her head, her tone firm and unwavering. "James, you don't understand. I need to figure out who I am before I can commit fully. I can't do that if I'm tied down." The contrast was painful, between the future I had envisioned with her and the reality she had just declared. In her mind, exploration came before partnership. In mine, respect, trust, and shared commitment were non-negotiable. That night our home felt smaller, the walls closer, the warmth gone. She was setting a boundary, one that severed the emotional connection I thought we shared. Days turned into weeks. Sarah packed her things, leaving a note that seemed casual, almost flippant. "I'll see where life takes me. Don't wait up." I read it over and over, disbelief mixing with heartbreak. I didn't beg her to stay. I didn't cry on the phone or send messages pleading for her return. Instead, I focused on myself, my work, my friends, and the life we had temporarily paused but which I refused to let fade entirely. The contrast framed itself in every aspect of my daily existence. Empty side of the bed, untouched coffee mugs, laughter that once filled the apartment, now a memory echoing in silence. Weeks later, the emptiness became clarity. Sarah had chosen exploration over commitment. I had a choice to honor myself and my boundaries or to bend to the hope that she might return. I chose the former. I moved forward, not with bitterness, but with self-respect, understanding that love is never truly reciprocated when one partner treats it as optional. Months passed and life settled into a rhythm I hadn't expected but slowly came to appreciate. The apartment, once heavy with the tension of her departure, felt lighter. I focused on work with renewed energy, spent evenings with friends I had neglected, and began rediscovering parts of myself that had been hidden beneath the weight of a relationship I thought was permanent. I learned to enjoy quiet dinners alone, reading books I had shelved for years, and taking walks without wondering if she was thinking of me or where she had gone. It wasn't easy, and there were moments when loneliness gnawed at me, but each time I reminded myself of one simple truth. I had honored my own heart when she had chosen her exploration over our shared life. Then, almost a year later, everything changed. I received a message on a quiet Thursday morning, one that made my chest tighten with a mix of disbelief, caution, and curiosity. It read simply, "James, can we talk? I need to explain. Please." My first instinct was to ignore it, to let the past remain in its proper place, untouched and undisturbed. But something in the phrasing, the vulnerability, the hesitation, the trace of regret, made me pause. I didn't respond immediately. I let the hours pass, thinking through every scenario, weighing every possible outcome. And then I realized, this wasn't just about her. It was about me and the respect I had cultivated for my own feelings over the past year. When we finally met, she was not the same person who had left. Her eyes, once bright with restless curiosity, now held a weight I hadn't seen before. She was quieter, slower, reflective. The exuberance of unchecked exploration had been tempered by experience, mistakes, and realizations she hadn't anticipated. I listened as she spoke, her words tumbling out, an admission of mistakes, of loneliness, Of the mistakes made when freedom is prioritized over love and partnership. It was a narrative of growth, yes, but it was also a confession of the hurt she had caused and the time she had squandered. I didn't respond immediately because I had learned the value of patience, of emotional clarity, and of observing contrast before acting. She wanted the life she had abandoned, the comfort she had walked away from, and the partner she had left behind. But in that year I had grown, evolved, and established boundaries I would no longer compromise. The contrast between her past impulsiveness and my present composure was stark, and in that contrast I found a power I hadn't known before, the power of self-respect and the clarity of choice. She kept talking, tears filling her eyes as she tried to bridge the gap time had carved between us. "I thought I needed space to find myself," she said softly, her voice trembling. "But all I found were people who never cared the way you did. I thought freedom meant doing whatever I wanted. But it just meant being surrounded by people who saw me as replaceable." Her words were heavy, honest, maybe even a little desperate. For the first time I saw her not as the woman who had betrayed our love, but as someone who had learned too late what real love costs when you throw it away. I let her finish. Then I told her something I never thought I'd be able to say. "You didn't lose me because you wanted to explore, Anna. You lost me because I stopped waiting for you to realize my worth. I stopped needing your validation to feel whole." Her eyes widened a little, as if my calmness hurt her more than anger ever could. I wasn't cruel, I was simply done. The version of me that would have taken her back no longer existed. She reached for my hand, but I pulled back gently. "I forgave you," I said. "But that doesn't mean I want to start over. You went to find yourself, and I did too. I just found someone worth keeping me." The silence that followed was thick. She wiped her tears, nodded slowly, and whispered, "You've changed." I smiled faintly. "No," I said. "I just stopped chasing people who run from love." When she left that cafe, I didn't watch her go. I didn't replay memories or wonder what if. I paid for my coffee, stepped outside, and took a deep breath of the cool evening air. For the first time in years, I felt light, not because someone had returned, but because I had finally moved beyond the version of myself who needed her to feel complete. A few months later, I heard she'd moved out of the city, starting fresh again. Maybe she'll find what she's looking for this time. As for me, I found peace in the quiet things. Early morning workouts, new friendships, the steady rhythm of work, and a heart that no longer waited for apologies or closure. Sometimes love doesn't end with betrayal or bitterness. It ends with acceptance. Not every story needs to come full circle. Some are meant to teach you how to let go with grace. She said she needed to explore, and she did. But while she searched for herself out there, I found myself right here, whole, grounded, and finally free.